Welcome back to the Film Alchemist podcast, the show where we take the movies we love, break them apart, to find out what gives them their magic. I'm what's left of your host, Josh Griffey, joined as always by my friend, co-host, and guy with just a sick metal helmet.
That's good. Alex Dandino.
All right, guys. Today we take a magical first step in our magical stocking stuffer December. A month of films completely programmed by our patrons. I have to issue a mea culpa right up front. My son turned 6 yesterday, and as a rite of passage, we took him to Kith's 15th last final tour. So we had a fucking night, dude. So my voice is weak and scraggly. So if you hear, it's not a repuberty. It is a enjoyed the shit out of Kiss too much. Everyone knows that Kiss fucking rules.
Ironically, they were playing music, and it wasn't just Gene Simmons hawking something, so that was pretty cool.
Fair enough. That's fair. I think Gene would say that's fair. They still fucking crush. There's an attention to stagecraft and show that I feel like is lost. Like, everyone makes fun of them as like they're the shittiest band of the 70s, and I'm like, they annihilate everything I've seen in like the last 10 years.
I did not know that was a thing. That, like, it's Kiss.
Well,
like,
again, they play simplistically, so they
sorry they're not Emerson Lake. Sorry they're not Emerson Lake Palmer. You fucking nerds.
Yeah, not everyone's Yo-Yo Ma. Bring it down a notch. That show fucking ruled. I can't hear anything because they fucking decided they needed to do like 55 fireworks during the set and fireballs, and it was a lot. So what I'm saying is I'm recovering from Kiss, but I think Kiss is the kind of perfect energy for today's movie, Excalibur, picked by Simia Canis. We hope we're saying that right. I believe it's an alias. If not, I apologize. Mea culpa again to Mama Canis for not pronouncing your boy's name right. Or daughter. Could be an alias. I don't know. But I wanted to say, before we talk about the prog rock masterpiece of Excalibur, a little business. Because even though I'm on the brink of death, rock and roll death, dude, God gave Patreon to you. So here we go. Yeah, we are on Patreon. That's right, patreon.com/filmalchemistpod. The best way to support the show. The best way to make sure you can pick a stocking stuffer next year. The best way to help you get your shows that you want to hear from your pals here at the Film Alchemist become creations. So we thank you for those of you who support us over there. We work very hard. We got a ton of cool stuff over there. Patreon.com/Film Alchemist Pod. Mm-hmm. Also, the YouTube Film Alchemist, the email filmalchemistpod@gmail.com. We're on all the socials you're on, so find us, chat with us. We're easy to reach out to and get a hold of. Make sure you go check out misfitparade.net. You can see some short horror stuff we're working on.
Great stuff.
We actually have a Christmas short coming out soon where you can see me as a murderous Santa. Check that off my old bucket list. Also, make sure you're leaving 5-star ratings and reviews so we can defeat those algorithmic women who just like decide they need power because dudes ruined their whole life legitimately. Right? The algorithm's not Morgana, but that's something, yeah.
That's something, sure. Yeah.
This movie's got a lot to unpack. Things were quite different hundreds of years ago. Also, if you guys would be so kind, shoot out a personal message to a friend you know who loves movies. Let them know we're here. Bring them in to the Alchemist Fold.
Guys, all right. It's the holidays. This is the time. Like we do stocking stuffers for you because we love you.
Yeah.
All we ask is that you tell a friend, listen to this episode where they say my name wrong. This movie that I picked this year.
Yes, that's right. Simia Canis. Gift your friend a year's subscription to our Patreon. Who knows?
Great idea.
Who knows? Maybe if you do that, we'll sprinkle something nice in extra. We'll see. All right, we go back. Way back. The dark times before King Arthur fucking helped set up the imperializing colonizer nation of Britain.
We go back to 1981.
So the year was 1967. The happy days were over. The dark times were upon us. Vietnam was coming. Drugs were coming. No. This takes place in like an ancient fantasy version of Great Britain before King Arthur fucking got all those people in line, right? There's a lot of pussyfooting around back in the day. A lot of evil stuff. I like it so much. It starts on like these epic, grandiose shots of battle, right? It's like Merlin's kind of chit-chatting with us. And what did he say? Merlin finds Uther, who I thought was Arthur. Uther is Arthur's dad. Mm-hmm. Not a good guy. And he just goes, pursue peace. And he just goes, talk is for lovers, Merlin. I need the sword. And I was like, all right, so our opening thesis is peace is for pussies, brah. Let's raid.
Yeah. A young Gabriel Byrne certainly leans into the being a shitbag parent.
Yeah, the Uther Pendragon. So it's like, it's fully go time, right? It's 100% go time. Uther finds the lady in the water. It's this little hand that lifts the swords out. It's a really funny thing that they keep doing, right? Now Uther's like King Dumb Bro.
Yeah.
Right? He finds peace because they're like, oh, fuck, you got... Right? As Monty Python said, having aquatic tots throwing swords at people is no system for proper governance. Right? The aquatic tart throws a sword at Uther. And they're like, well, this guy who only has resting caveman face, he is clearly the one to lead. And within like a very brief window, they're just having like a rager, right, at the castle. It's like a post, we just killed a bunch of people rager. Let all the pores go back and die of infection. We're going to get fucked up, right? And the guy just asks his wife, he's like, can you do something that is approximate to dancing? And Uther just goes, that's it. The war's back. The war's back on. In like the span of a dinner where they're all literally telling him, they're like, stop drooling on your armor. Stop looking at her that way. What about the piece? He's just, pussy. And that's what like, starts.
This is, like the movie. Okay. This is the first time I watched this movie.
Yeah, because the Uther is like a little, this is like a little pre-log we're doing, right?
Yeah.
This is a prelude to the real tale.
We're doing a prelude to the real, the real deal story. This is the first time I've actually watched this movie the whole way through.
Yeah.
I think I've seen clips online like everybody else this in this day and age. First time I watched this movie the whole way through. I'll be honest, this was not the movie I expected to watch. Like this was, I thought Excalibur was more just like
like a period piece Arthurian thing.
I think, I figured it was some sort of sword and sandal thing. Like not necessarily that, but like at least like swords and probably a dragon,
Right.
For it to be literally the sword and the stone, that was. I had to get over that very quickly because I was like, whoa, okay, sword in the stone. Cool, we're doing this. Like, this is fine.
Funny. I think a lot of American kids, that's like our Arthurian setting is the sword in the stone movie.
So that Disney movie is the first, like, shot over the bow for a lot of kids.
Yeah, when he's like, my brother Kay, you're like, fuck that guy.
Yeah.
Like, right, fuck.
And Kay. I mean, I love that cartoon. It's literally my favorite Disney cartoon, probably, because I've watched it a million times and my kid loves it, and so that's just part of the deal. I think what's fascinating about this movie is so there's a lot of prologue, but like the Arthurian legend is so huge. Like, and this movie is like 2 hours 220, right?
220, yeah.
Which is a pretty decent runtime. Still not enough time to cover the legend of King Arthur. Like it's the legend of King Arthur is huge. Like
we are ripping through it, and the things they choose to keep in are baffling at times.
The pace we're keeping is like, it's like, the 20s, like.
We're at Flapper. They just have some old flapper as an editor. Back in my day.
Back in my day, we told this story in 20 minutes, but all right.
Do you have to wear those beaded curtains with every dress? Get back to editing. Cuts. We need cuts. It's a huge mythology.
But let's say for the story, mythology, brisk pace at 2 hours and 20 minutes. Like, we are getting through this.
It's very vignette-y because we just are doing this. It's like British prog rock Citizen Kane, right? Like, we are really like watching like the whole from sexual assault conception, to like long ass death from a belly wound. We are watching an entire scope of a man's existence, right? There are chunks of the movie where they just start taking wild, like years-long dalliances. I'll just start there. I thought that was a fucking wild place to start. Because at the beginning of the movie, I thought Uther was Arthur. Because I don't know much about Arthurian legend, right?
I think because it's Gabriel, again.
And also, it's Gabriel Byrne. So you're like, that's a guy who's like a lead.
The first movie for a lot of these actors.
Yeah.
Like, it's 81.
So you have your Patrick Stewart, your Liam
Neeson, Gabriel Byrne, Helen Mirren, Ciarán Hinds. Like, there are actors in this movie that are legendary now.
Right. And you don't think that the guy who looks like a sentient ferret is going to be the one who, like, becomes the king.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, so one of the things I liked, and I like about this movie en masse, is I like the Uther, Arthur, the Pendragon line, let's say.
Yeah.
I like watching Merlin, like, he's essentially like a shitty Dumbledore. It's like, I feel like there's just better, easier ways to say and do what you want to do and help get your protege to, like, the end of the mission.
Sure, yeah.
Like, I think we can all remember back in Harold Potter before that became the franchise whose name we don't say anymore.
Mm-hmm.
They're just like, Dumbledore, if you're such a good fucking wizard, like, just tell Harry what the fuck's going on and let him, like, be ready. Like, teach him actual spells instead of being a piece of shit. Neither here nor there. Merlin's very much like that because he's just like, I dreamt of a dragon. Can you see the dragon's breath all around you? I've awoken him. And I was like, oh, fuck, dude. Merlin awoken a dragon because Uther is mad.
Yeah.
And then he goes, jump on your horse and ride the clouds. Your lust will carry you. Wait, what? What was that last part you said?
Excuse me?
Your lust will, your erection will float your horse across. Yeah, wait.
Sorry,
I'm not hearing you. This helmet, I don't have ear holes.
Sorry, there's some.
No. Yeah, the heft, the lusty heft of your giant royal dong is going to lift you and your horse like the Goodyear blimp to the Super Bowl of sexual assaults. And we're like, wait, okay, I did hear you, but I'm not processing.
And then again, sorry, heard that one? Can you say it again?
Yeah.
It was
okay, so the problem was not my hearing as I first thought. It's the comprehending what you're saying is.
It's my comprehension level. This is my fault.
I'm tripping up. I'm tripping up on the words. Language and our people are young. I'm having trouble with what you're saying. What? And he's like, ride your horse across the pluming cloud that is the dragon. Here's a potion so you can look like that lady's husband. So essentially Merlin's great plan. And later in the movie, he's like, oh, it almost killed me. He never is like, man, I really regret this. He's just like, do you know how rough that was on me? And it's like, I know someone for sure that it was rougher on Merlin. Like, I know at least one. But yeah, so
at least one person
he calls this guy out of his castle so he can go slaughter a bunch of poor villagers. And then he's just like, where's Uther? And they're like, what are you talking about? And he's just murdering everyone. And Uther just rolls up to the castle and he's like, send your bitch daughter away. It's time to plow. And we just watch him fucking her. And then, like, every time the light gets a little more Vaseline-y, it cuts back to Uther's face and then to her husband's face.
Yeah.
And it is fucking insane. And then we cut to the little girl who's hearing her mom getting plowed while she knows her dad has died on spikes. And you're just like, this is a fucking crazy opener that also is capped with not only is that a sexual assault baby, and the guy who did it is going to, it's like a Revenge of the Nerds scene, but like played out mythologically.
By the way, let's be clear. All this happens in the first like 15 minutes of the movie, maybe less.
Short, dude. Because you're like, they're throwing a lot. This was just guys swinging swords. Because you start off just being like, man, they don't make them like they used to. Like, just a lot of extras and swords and horses. This is really cool.
Yeah.
And then you're like, this is some concocting that Merlin is doing. This is crazy. Because then Merlin's like, not only am I going to empower you for a rape, but the real point of it is that I get the baby. And it's like, you do not seem like a guy I'm sending a baby with into the woods. Like, that's not happening.
And rightfully so. Rightfully so. Igraine's like, no, not my baby. No, I'm like, she gets it. She knows what's going on.
And he's just like, fine, take it, lame. Yeah. Oh, great. Now mine's crying. The one that I chiseled to marry, she's crying. Great, take the baby. And then,
all right, fine.
Uther has to get jumped and murdered in the woods, as if Merlin ain't also equally responsible for what's been going down.
Can I talk about this first?
Yes, go.
Because to be honest with you, Uther's death scene, like, I understand what's going on. Could not stop laughing because it was just like, I was like, Jesus Christ, like, wait, he just gave up a baby and he's gonna die. What is going on?
Gabriel Byrne is going full Cro-Magnon in
Like,
this.
he is hardcore in this. Like, he's just, and I mean, like, he's coughing up blood and then again, just to get us to what the stuff we're familiar with, which is the sword, the stone, just to get us to a sword going into a stone. I'm like, guys, we could have skipped this part. Like, I totally get it. Like, obviously that guy's a bad guy, has to die. Like, we could have skipped him thrusting a sword into a stone. I did not need the literal sword into the stone.
Yeah, I didn't realize that sword and stone was a fucking metaphor for the sexual assault that raised Arthur.
I know.
Right?
I know. With
That was a
predating,
new one. Disney left that out of the fucking prelude.
Yeah. Disney left the in the that little song they played at the very beginning. Disney left that one out.
I'm gonna cram this sword in there, and only my
I will say
bastard.
the opening words. Again, not only is that obviously Griffey catnip, but this one particularly was pretty cool. I gotta say, like, it wasn't just a scroll; it was like
It's pretty cool.
Excalibur. That was good. I liked it. But yeah,
this movie's crazy. And then just to find out that Merlin also is like, ew, gross, raise this kid as your own. I'll be back when it's important and cool again. I was like, Merlin fucking sucks. And I think it's funny because, like, we grew up with the Disney one where Merlin was like this fun old, like, forgetful guy. He's like a Fellowship of the Rings Gandalf the Grey.
yeah.
Right? We're like, look at this fun old wizard with his little owl Archimedes. Like, I like this guy. Right? He's just having too much fucking sugar in his tea. He's a fun guy.
Yeah.
I was unprepared. And I don't know, maybe British audiences were like, we really want to stick to the truth of the story, which is Merlin is a fucking, like,
Merlin
rapist,
is a
crazy
fucking
person.
psychopath. Like, every other iteration of the
Merlin
Arthur
gives
legend,
off, like,
Merlin is a fucking
real,
dickhead.
yeah, like, he's like a real unsafe looking, unsavory, because they play him as this, like, inhuman thing.
Yeah.
So they play him as if he's like Peter Capaldi's Time Lord, but also, like, will definitely help with murders and rapes. And you're like, that is not who I thought Merlin was, because he's like, when you're a necromancer, it's lonely. And it's like, well,
yeah, in my opinion,
all right,
the
and then he's
version,
like, he meets later Helamirren, and he's like, damn, I got to beat the cheeks, but I'm like probably like hundreds of years
for some reason, Walt Disney was reading through the Arthur legend. He's like, I'm not sure this sexual assault accomplice is going to be the thing that gets the kids in the seats.
And Walt Disney's like, and I have some unsavory opinions for sure.
Listen,
But
there's some things I
Merlin
believe
guy
that no
is
one else
fucking
should know about,
wild,
but this
dude.
Merlin guy is messed up.
if Merlin was at the party, I mean, that would be wild for all
The
of us.
Disney guys walk out. Did you hear him say that Merlin was messed up? Dude, we have got to make this work.
Yeah, don't get judged by Walt. That is
Getting judged by Walt Disney, that's some low-level shit right
yes. But it is funny that like all this extra Arthurian shit is there, which I just had no idea. But I do think that opening of the movie is like this righteous little short film.
there. Yeah.
I think it gets a little goofball for a minute once it turns into like the sword and the stone stuff. And it's fine because now all of a sudden he's like a true superhero.
The homie who plays Arthur, I at first thought his voice was dubbed. Is his voice dubbed? Is he not acting?
You just think he had no bass because he looks like a guy who like can't put bass in his voice. You know, like when your kid's got to get yelled at, and you're like, "Hey, Logan, don't do that, Logan." And you gotta like, I can't do it today, but you like put that like bark in your voice, like you put some bass in it.
Is that what it is?
He looks like a guy who can't put bass in his voice.
Because I literally thought it was like
he looks like he's the guy on the Matrix who's like, "Do you see her?
The first
I designed
time
the lady in the red dress. You want to bang?" And you're like, "That's not like a heroic jib."
So I rewound this. The first time I heard him say dialogue, I rewound it like twice. Because I was trying to figure out if they had dubbed his voice or if that was like his actual speaking voice.
Dang, I forgot the sword.
Yeah.
He's like,
I was like, this is the situation where
James Earl Joning Arthur.
I was like, are they James Earl Jonesing this? I could not tell.
Merlin.
So
Right, like
it's
it's that deep-ass daddy voice.
Does Nigel Terry just walk around with a constant falsetto and they're like, we're not going to be able to do this? We were like, John Borman's like, I can't make this work.
Yeah, there's no way all these dudes throw down arms and are not throwing them directly at his face. But yeah, I don't know, because even the scene, it's like insane. Like, he gets his little sword, he's chasing Merlin, who's just being like a fucking prodigious cock as always.
Yeah,
he's like, yeah, everything's easy for you. You're a king. Blah blah blah. You were born to be a king. I stole you from your mama who was raped. Blah blah blah. And it's just like, whoa, slow the fuck down and tell him the important part. That you are definitely a part of a criminal conspiracy. You have a sister you don't know about. No, that's gonna matter.
Merle, you buried the lead there. You can't just
he's just like a wild ass.
Glaze
and
over
Arthur follows them, and he's pretty much just like, yeah, just get on a horse and run to Peastew's castle and join the fight. And he just jumps in and is fighting with no armor and just like whipping ass. And through his like good, generous heart, right? What we see is that King Uther's vile black heart and his fucking the original sin of Arthur has somehow made him like a cool dude.
Yeah.
Which is also a wild ass narrative choice. Is that Arthur just all of a sudden is like, all right, I got this, guys. I'm cool. It's like, well, your dad did some shit. Like, we were in the wars with your dad. Because the one guy goes, he is the son of Uther. And I was like, yeah, you don't want him coming into your tent at night. So you're like, just give this dude what he wants.
Problem is, Peastew basically legitimizes the whole thing because he's like, I saw it with my own eyes. Yeah. He pulled it from the stone. He's the king. I'm like, guys, hang on. Okay. We can't just base this on pulling the sexual assault stone, pulling a sword from the sexual assault stone. Like,
and it is funny because I know yours was like Sword in the Stone, right? The Disney.
Yeah.
I was such a huge Monty Python like preteen. Like, I used to do Monty Python bits as part of the speech team, which I was on.
Oh, yeah.
So you guys remember in your middle schools and high schools, the guys that just were getting all of the pussy?
Yeah.
And they'd hang out at the speech meets with me, and it was like, guys, come on, stop. I got to.
Okay, I don't remember that, but keep going, sure.
We were just like drowning in it. Like, we
were
really
what?
like
If Uther and Merlin are going to conspire to just glaze over sexual assault, I'll go along with this premise. Go for it.
Yeah, so, the crushing kings of your school, kings and queens of your school were definitely in speech team. That was us.
Right. Of course.
Speech and debate team, which we were crushing. And then the guys who are at the top of that fucking private pyramid are the guys who do Monty Python bits.
Oh, yeah, well,
as part of their scripted duos. Those guys, Kiss levels of slinging it, for sure.
What was the bit?
So I actually wrote a script of like several bits. So as the aquatic tarts throwing swords at you is no way to run a business. We did the opening with the swallows and the coconuts.
Okay, cool.
The Black Knight, and we would end on the knights who say knee.
Okay, nice.
So like, again, we had to like get some extra security on the doors. We all had to wear anti-slip shoes. It was fun.
That was great. That's great.
Yeah. So we were crushing.
Cool. So back to reality.
My King Arthur basis is 1,000% Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Yeah.
Mine is probably even a worse place for it to start. But
I saw Monty Python when I was 7, so it was that plus.
It's like in my top 10 favorite movies to this day. I can almost quote it word for word.
It's that plus Sword in the Stone, or that's the Arthur legend I know.
Yeah.
So like, one is an entire bit, for a whole movie about what King Arthur is, and the other one is Disney. So
well, I struggle a little with King Arthur stuff, right? Because like Arthur and them sieging, helping take back Patrick Stewart's castle is legitimately fucking metal.
Yeah,
you're just like
awesome.
The sets, the extras.
There's stuff in Arthur Legends that is really cool, like the Green Knight, like that kind of shit is. Yeah. Some of that is really it's fun.
Yes, you're right.
I'm like, but, cool.
Like that siege
maybe the
scene
wrong
is
word,
cool.
But, cool.
Then we cut to, hey, I've got armor, and when he jousts Lancelot, I was like, jousting has to be the dumbest shit that's ever been made or put to film. They're just riding with sticks, and then he gets knocked off his horse, and he's like, sword, and it's like, oh, he's got his little bitch boy to bring him a sword. Like, knights are stupid. Like, let's just be upfront. Of all of the like fantasy characters and realms, like the knights are lame.
Well, remember,
it's just guys in tin cans that can't move very well, and there's no knight fight. There's literally no knights fighting in full armor that doesn't.
The only
make
time
me laugh.
jousting's been cool was at like the 3rd episode of Game of Thrones when the Mountain Who Rides does the exact same thing, gets dispatched like sword, grabs a sword and like chops the horse's head in half, and you're like, okay, that was cool. But that was after the joust.
I'm way more killing humans than animals on film.
No, yeah, I mean, I'm not saying killing horses is cool.
At least
I'm
you're like, Game of Thrones was
metal.
like, Game of Thrones was so fucking cool at that time. You're like, whatever they do is cool. No, even in Game of Thrones, jousting is fucking stupid.
But see, it was after the joust.
Know what's
like,
cooler?
Okay, that wasn't that cool.
Is when they put the mountain against the viper, and the viper's like, I don't have to wear the like, I think we just grew up on Wizard of Oz, so they look like the Tin Man. You're like, the Tin Man's not cool.
Yeah, agreed.
Night fighting
the
is
viper's
not
like,
cool.
I'm good.
If you put them in a big battlefield, you're like, now there's thousands of little, like, fucking Tin Men cosplaying on Hollywood Boulevard.
But
That's
see, what
kind
we
of cool.
did was we saw that guy be awesome. We're like, okay, cool, let's make him Star Wars now. So, like, that was the end of that.
Yeah.
So.
It's just, knights aren't cool. Knights in armor fighting is fucking stupid.
It's 10
Any movie that has a joust in it and it's supposed to have dramatic stakes, I can't give a fuck about it.
We've already talked about this on the Knight's Tale.
Dumbest.
Knight's Tale is hard. Knight's Tale, that is the hardest part about the Knight's Tale. Is you're just like, jousting, really?
Right, because like Lancelot and him are in this like epic battle, and it just looks like two toddlers swinging pool noodles at each other. Like, it's just not cool in any way, shape, or form. Like, they can't walk, they're falling down. And then it's like Arthur cheats, but like he learns his lesson within like 5 seconds. The lady in the water's like, like she's some kind of fucking old British fucking watery Nedry. Yeah, because just like he's like, I cheated and I ruined Excalibur. She's like, all right, here's a new one. You come from a good family that makes good choices, so I'll trust you one more time.
Again, the Arthur legend is so just like, especially watching Excalibur too. Like, I've read a couple of like, like Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's stuff. You read some Arthur legend shit.
Didn't he do Sherlock Holmes?
What's that?
He did Sherlock Holmes and wrote King Arthur Legends?
Yeah, he also wrote, who wrote, I don't know. Well, either
The Great Mouse Detective, probably. That was him.
I don't know about that one.
Now that movie rips.
There's another Disneyism from our childhood that.
Yeah, I will say that I thought that fight was stupid, but there is like a fantasy quality that I really like to this movie. Because like for me, it's like the jousting is so dumb, and then all of their like little fucking creeds and oaths. I'm like, this is stupid. But then like the lady in the water comes, then Merlin's spouting wise, then Helen Mirren shows up.
Okay, so Helen Mirren
shows
shows
like,
up
now
and sort of sets it up.
It would be impossible for me to be more invested in this movie than I am.
So young Helen Mirren sets it off.
I don't know if you remember this, but I was writing a project years ago with our friend Stevie B, and I told him, I was like, you know what? Because he was like a Broadway guy. He wanted to like make plays that would like play big theaters and whatever. Mm-hmm. And I was like, dude, you should do an Iron Maiden musical and just fucking use Iron Maiden songs.
Yeah.
And I had written one called The Klansman. Which immediately was like, that's not a great title. I was like, it's CLAN Klansman. It's one of the best Iron Maiden tracks. And we were all like, well, that's got to get workshopped. Yeah. But essentially, I just wrote like a shitty Macbeth about this Klansman who was driven from his tribe and he meets like the witches, right? And had all these Iron Maiden songs. And I was like, this movie really defaults to how I thought my Iron Maiden musical would go. Because it's like, it starts off, it's a little dipshitty, right? With them like, we have honor and codes and we're brothers and we're friends. We sit at a fucking circle table. It's like, all right, dude, we live in 2023. Circle tables are pretty stupid. Like, we don't really care about circle tables that much. And then all of a sudden, Helen Mirren's like, I'm here to do dark sex magic. And you're like, fuck yeah. That is what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that part's cool. By the way, how often, for all the honor and code these guys have, do they just break it constantly? Like, every time, every opportunity.
Well, let's talk about, like, a thing the movie needed to do a ton better on was probably, like, one of the most famous love triangles in storytelling history is Arthur and Lancelot and Guinevere, right?
Yeah.
And Guinevere is such a second-class citizen in this story.
Yeah, it's pretty...
Like, doesn't matter. This movie's kind of doing, like, Amelie, which we talked about last week, where it's, like, 8 narratives that you kind of have to know about.
Very dude-heavy story.
But yeah, so Guinevere just has no fucking say in her own. And she's literally just played as like, look at this cheating piece of shit.
Right.
And it's like, all right, well, when your husband's like, you're sitting there and you're like, hey, it's our anniversary. Like, did you bring me flowers? No. I was born to be of legend shit, dude. I don't pick flowers. You're like, that's not good. I can see how Guinevere would be cold. And Lancelot is even more of a two-dimensional, like, I am everything right. He's like the He-Man action figure without the fun menagerie or battle cat. And it's like, so the idea that he just says, well, I love Arthur, so that means I've got to love you.
Right.
And they just have like 4 unrequited love, like, stares. And then she's riding off into the woods to get fucking clapped up.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that part of the movie is way too fast and not done well. The thing that makes it work in this movie, and I wanted your opinion on this.
Sure.
This movie seems to default to excusing a lot of bad behavior and stupidity because the movie is constantly asking us how in control of their actions are anyone in this movie versus if Merlin already sees everything so clearly, right? Merlin is this stand-up for like the Christian God. If someone has all knowledge and foresight, are we actually in control of our actions at all? What did you make of this really short, like, love triangle and then the possibility that they were just destined to get it in?
I mean, I don't know about you. I think it's kind of a literary cop out to do that. Like, I don't.
It feels a little bit like we were telling like ancient peasants, like, hey man, not your neighbor's wife.
Yeah, like, again, I think this is the thing about King Arthur that's kind of complicated because King Arthur is like such a, in my opinion, such like a deeply.
It's a culturally important story for a place we're not from.
Yeah, it's a culturally important story. I'm not.
So take
from
away
there.
that great pool and just look at this
So
movie.
like if you take away the actual like Arthurian literature as like what it is, like, which is like second to almost like sort of like the way the Bible works, is like these stories of right and wrong, that kind of shit. So if you take that away and just talk about Excalibur as it is, I think it's kind of shitty to tell your characters who have free will, hey, just do whatever you want. I mean, there's no consequence. Like, to tell your characters that essentially there's no consequences because everything is predestined. They're like, oh, cool. So I was meant to cheat on everybody and like fuck whatever I wanted. Like, there's something about that is like, it takes the piss out of the story so badly that you're just like, I don't.
And Arthur, like, he was born to do legend stuff, so he can't be human. So like, he really just stabs his sword between him. He's just more like, oh, you should have invited me. I would have loved this.
Yeah.
Like he's some kind of old-timey cuck. It's like, he doesn't seem mad. Like, he goes after him. Like, they should fight to the death.
Yeah.
Like, instead he just goes and he's like, I'm going to get real sad now. Tons of peasants are going to starve to death. And a lot of my knights are going to end up in this fucking gnarly tree set, which is very cool. But not the best way to govern again.
So, yeah, his whole, like... Again, the whole thing is... Okay, so he gets... who is it? Oh, shit, after Mordred. After the Mordred thing. When he gets... No, after the Mordred thing, when he gets... when he, like... I don't know, turns old or whatever happens to him.
Oh, yeah.
Again, it's just like...
Because... all right, we're jumping around a lot. So Morgana, she gets the polyjuice potion from Hogwarts. And you're like, this is another example of stupid Harry Potter magic. You're like, Hogwarts would be a fucking nightmare.
Yeah.
Right? Neither here nor there. She goes and she bangs Arthur. He's like, oh, she must have fucking hot-footed it back from the fucking woods and wants makeup sex with me. No, it's his sister banging him. And she's like, boom, got your seed in this fucking old-timey Ziploc. I got your seed. Thanks for that, bitch. And then Arthur's like, no, you've drained me. And so now he's like ghostly Arthur, and he's like, wait a sec. You know what I need? I need a fucking cup.
Yeah, so he's like struck by lightning or something. That was
he hits him in his armor.
Yeah. So he's like, oh, God, the only thing I can do is pretty much every single one of you guys goes out and tries to find the Holy Grail. I'm like, excuse me, sorry.
All you guys are going to die and get eaten by crows hung from your neck.
1 second here, sir.
All of my people,
are you saying the Jesus chalice is what's going to bring you back to life here? So now not only...
one's like, hey, have you ever seen this cup? Like, do you remember where you saw it last?
Do you know
like,
where it is?
No, just like walk around and be sad as shit. And in your moments where you're sad as shit, the cup will like maybe
Again,
find
like,
you.
This is
like
another
that,
thing though. This is another thing I have a problem with like the Arthur legend in general is like because again this is another like why like we're so just like fractured with this whole thing because the first experience I have with the Arthur legend is not only the Sword and Stone but Monty Python. So like the Monty Python of it all has this like he prays to God and those kinds of things. Like, okay, cool. I get it.
Quit groveling. I can't stand groveling. It's always, oh God.
So he's like praying to God. So that was the first. So watching
the first
this
time
today,
you see Monty Python's Holy Grail for the rest of your life, you're like, inherently, the quest for the Grail is a pretty stupid and farcical affair.
yes.
It's hard to ever take that seriously again.
But there's like so much magic and shit going on in Excalibur, so that when he says the Holy Grail, I'm like, the Jesus Cup? Wait, is Jesus a part of this?
Well,
what
this
is happening?
Where Merlin, he's telling Morgana, he's like, my time has come to an end. He's like, the time of the one God will replace the many. And I was like,
this is the part I'm like,
Jesus is doing battle in heaven also like this?
Are we doing this? Are we going to have... But see, this is again...
Was Jesus made like Arthur? Because that's wild. The movie is
2 hours and 20 minutes long, and we go so fast. I'm like, that's a movie right there.
Well,
to discuss
also
the handing over of the religion.
It's also a pat on the back for us modern writers that, back then there weren't as many narrative examples and rules. So they were really just writing horse shit a lot of the times. Like, what will scare poor people to where they won't kill us with their pitchforks when we're not giving them
this
food?
There's really like one of my all-time favorite comedy bits is George Carlin talking about the 10 Commandments. And he puts it best, which is like, there's a bunch of political and religious hustlers got together. The new people were basically stupid and would believe anything they were told. So what they told them was that God gave them commandments up on a mountain where nobody else was around. You're like, all right, cool. Like,
no notes, no input, no
nothing.
No
just God
raised.
had given them 10 commandments to live their life by. And this is sort of the same thing with, but like again, like when Merlin's
see Patrick Stewart be like, he's a 12-year-old bastard, but like he got the sword. I'm like gonna get a lot of my best friends murdered over this. And you're like, it is fucking stupid. Like, it's really stupid. And I think one thing that we're bad at, and I think it's because we were raised in America, and like, I was raised very Christian.
Yeah.
I think it's hard for people like us and our families to admit that people in the time of Jesus were essentially dumber than like the average third grader today.
Yeah.
And it's not their fault. The earth was young.
There was just less information available.
There was less information. There wasn't as much time to just sit and learn information.
They also thought
people
the
back
world
then
was,
at a basic level
was this big.
Yeah, at a basic level, people back then were like small children.
Yeah.
Like when my kid is hiding in a fucking Amazon box, and he's like, "Dad, this is my fortress, and in here, snakes drink coffee with me, and poop is my laser that shoots out of my gun."
Yeah.
That's how everyone lived back then.
Yeah.
They just lived in a world and they're like, oh, that guy walked on water? Oh, you didn't see it either? Dope. Let's just believe that. Right? Oh, that guy's the king because some lady in a lake gave him a sword where no one's ever around to witness this.
Yeah.
Literally no one. Lancelot's blacked out. No one ever witnesses Arthur getting the fucking sword from the lady in the lake. So it's like, okay, this is a good way to like do everything in our life. Wait, no, everyone thinks Merlin's just okay. Like the first ever archetype Hot Topic manager is just someone we're gonna let like whisper into our ears all the time. Okay, sick. Because Arthur will be like, Merlin, what's the best quality in a knight? And he's like, hard answer. And I'm like, whatever he says, don't believe it. Like for sure, it's not gonna be right. And he's like, truth. And you go, damn, Merlin doesn't have a mirror. Now Merlin's saying that truth is the most important quality. The king of the fucking polyjuice and training my sister to come rape me. Yeah, I don't know. It's a weird... You have to strip out... Every movie you got to give them one, right? Mm-hmm. And in this one, the one you have to give the movie is a complete and total Jurassic Park style flipping the breakers on reason.
Yeah, you're like, you know what? I think, again, that's what makes watching the movie that much more enjoyable because you do just like...
Well, if you don't really break
them
it
all
down,
off and you're just like,
the performances are fun. The movie looks Oh, like this movie has so much style.
I was reading the Wikipedia page for this. Apparently, John Borman went in and pitched this, and they're like, "No, that's way too expensive. But you can do Lord of the Rings if you want." And he's like, I was reading this like, what? Lord of the Rings is like so much less expensive than Arthur. I'm like,
imagine the Excalibur version of Lord of the Rings where it's just all those books squished into one.
Dude.
Everyone be fucking. It's like, yeah, dude.
It's just a 3-hour orgy with a couple of sword swings.
I know that ring's sliding around in here somewhere, but I don't want to reach in the pile again. I don't know if I have the strength. Let me carry the load. Not now, Sam. You've already had 3 loads. Jesus.
I'll carry the load. I don't think you can carry this one,
putting
Sam.
a potato in me. We've got serious stuff to do.
I'm going to put a potato up your ass. Like, it's
so childish.
It's so just
how
like... How
dare we impugn Arthurian legend when we're so dumb and childish?
I know. We are the people. We are the people who read the first Bible. Just like, sure, sounds good, great. Yeah.
No, even they had some dignity. What they lacked in intelligence, they probably beat us in dignity by a lot.
That's true. They're like,
we're children.
All right, well, I wasn't going to kill anyone anyways, but I guess there's rules now, so yeah, it's fine. No,
I love the style of this.
Again,
Mordred's armor is awesome.
Oh my god,
it
dude,
just looks
the
beautiful.
First time I saw that, I was like, that is fucking killer. Oh my god.
This is one of those I had like a real like old man moment where I was like, they just don't make them like they used to, man.
Yeah.
And there is, even though knights are fucking stupid, like the most overrated thing in fantasy are knights and horses. Not the riders of Rohan or whatever. That shit is cool.
Yeah.
Because they look like they have like leather and shit, but whatever. I'm not here to debate ancient armors because I'm sure there are people nerdier than me that be like, actually. But it is cool when the fog rolls in. And the knights Arthur's like, let's go with the old ways, bro. They won't know how few of us there are. And they're just riding around, and just the way the light glints off of the swords and armor and these fast motions. And there's just so many bodies around. Like, I miss these old fantasy epics where there are just battles with lots of fucking bodies.
Yeah.
Like, it is awesome. It is cool. And this movie looks, and even that final shot, dude, as Mordred fucking runs Arthur through. And then Arthur runs him through, and that fucking bright red sun is glinting off of all of those dead knights.
Like,
dude, it's fucking, this movie is beautiful. Beautiful.
There's just, the movie has these, I mean, it's just, you have to be on set for it. You can't be on, and I'm not saying you can't do it like on one of the digital screens, but there is something to be said for just, oh yeah, it's that time of day. Let's shoot it.
You cannot recreate this kind of like extra little
awesome.
Magic digitally. Yeah. You just can't.
It's just something else, man. Like it is.
There's like a breath to the scene, right? When you see these guys like actually like breathing heavy, and it's just different.
I'm not saying I'm a great actor. I don't think Nigel Terry is the greatest Arthur I've ever seen on screen, but
he's pretty good.
Once I figured out that it wasn't him being overdubbed, he wasn't getting James Earl Jones, it was fine. Like it was like, okay, cool. It was great.
Yeah,
and again,
it was.
There's so much to pack into a 2-hour movie. Again, like flip the breakers and just set your mind to like this isn't going to be a reasonably paced. This is going to be a unreasonably paced epic to get through like 8 stories.
Well, right, because we're doing this Arthur's whole life, right? Mm-hmm. He's looking
like
for
the
Rosebud.
Whole thing.
Yeah, the Rosebud Arthur story. But then let's do a detour and just have Percival fucking struggling.
Yeah,
to find the cup, and you're like, this section of the film is fucking awesome. Like among my favorite parts in the film is him finding the tree full of knights, him and Morgana. He won't fucking drink Morgana's cup. Like that section of Percival, and then he just runs back with the cup, and Arthur takes a sip. He's like, I didn't know how empty I was till my soul was filled. Let's go, bitch. And you're like, yeah, Percival's mission, great. Morgana and Merlin having their little usurping battle where she learns the spell of making, and she's like, you old fool, and then he's in an ice block and it looks like fucking Superman 2. You're like, yeah, this is fucking awesome. And then when Merlin wakes up and he's like, now I am also like Freddy Krueger, a rapist who is a dream, and you're like, whoa.
Can we talk about the ghost Merlin that shows up like the first time you see Morgana in that man, Helen Mirren is so hot, dude.
Yeah, Merlin Krueger shows up and immediately is still like, damn, I wish I wasn't a dream. I wish I was a wet dream because I would still get it in. And you're like, Merlin, we both agree on that. I think just different paths.
Yeah.
Right? Like you have taken a creepier, darker path. Like I can't follow you where you're going.
Got a little weirder with this, but
Yeah. Well, it's so funny now because everyone's like, Helen Mirren's like a super hot old lady. And you're like, brother, you should go back and watch. She has always been.
She has been hot.
One of the ones. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not to reduce the great Dame Helen Mirren down to just an object of attractiveness, but Jesus.
She's a fantastic actress, but she has been a looker.
And there's the thing, it's like I think a lot of young men, you make this foolish folly where it's like all about like what physical attributes someone has. There are just moments when she looks at the camera and you're like, yeah, she really does have magic. Like whatever it is. Incredible. There is a fucking dark, sensual magic in that woman.
Yeah.
But she's great, right? And he makes her breathe the dragon's fire. So I guess in a way it is a dusty dream, a gassy dream, whatever. That's not
again.
Great.
It's just the set.
Because he goes, really you've stayed unnaturally young. He's like, is there even any magic left to you? She's like, fuck you, Merlin. She creates the smoke, and then Mordred comes in, and she's like a severely old lady.
Yeah, she's like
right.
Decrepit.
She's like 51 in Arthur years, and Mordred's like, ew, gross, and smacks the fuck out of her and chokes her. Because she just goes, my boy. And he's like, that's true. Mom's never done anything untoward. I better choke and murder this lady right now.
You know what? You know what's weird, too? Okay, so because you've done art department. When she's like exhaling the fire, the dragon breath, how are they doing that? That was really cool.
Fog machine.
Out of her mouth?
Yeah, what you would do is because she's kind of sideways to the camera.
Yeah, yeah.
So you tape the tube down and have it like pressing right into the mouth, or you can do like a U shape where it kind of goes in the mouth, like and follows the cheek line. So it's really coming out. You just got to hide that entry point.
I was going to say it was coming out with her breath, and I was like, is there something?
They do that with vomit too. You shoot it kind of profile, so it can either be right on the side of the
vomit
face,
one I knew about. I didn't know
or
they
you
did
go
that with
into
machine.
the mouth with the tube, and you just turn on a fog machine, and it'll pump out a lot of fog. We've done some stuff like that, not to this cool of a level, but I did and I was like, wait, wasn't she like maybe 8 years old at the max when Arthur was conceived? I was like, you're really like unfair to women in this movie. It's like she aged like an old dog turd, and Arthur's just got a little dry shampoo in the beard. Come on, that is unfair for sure. To the point where Mordred sees her just in her natural age, and he's like,
that whole sequence,
an aging woman.
That whole sequence, I also almost woke up Andrea, started laughing. I was like, oh my God, he just smacked her and started choking her.
It's so ridiculous. I mean, I think Mordred and Lancelot are where the movie needed a lot more time, because there's even this segment where Percival finds like whacked out old cult leader Lancelot.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, to me, that's how you frame the movie. It's Lancelot dealing with the guilt, like retelling these fever dreams.
I wanted to read a little more because I don't remember Guinevere deciding to go to a convent after she.
Again, I think this movie just hates women, and it's like we're just going to put her ass where she belongs. That
after
she
almost got double teamed, I was like, I think that's probably not where she went, but whatever, it's fine.
That's pretty lame. It's like, dude, she is a queen. Like, she does legitimately have a title. Where, like, if Arthur's taking a long nappy nap, like, I don't think you can just remove her ass.
There is legitimately, like, throughout this movie, like, ladies, shoosh, get out of the way for the men so we can do this story.
Yeah.
So much.
Yeah.
To a point where you're like, I don't know if I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Even in 81, people are probably like, geez.
It's not great. It's not great. So, yeah, I think Mordred and Lancelot could have been used to much greater effect. But there's just so much fun fantasy in the movie. I think the movie fails the more it becomes realistic. Like, when we're doing, like, actual, like, knights and politicking, it doesn't do a great job. When it's kind of these big prog rock pieces, it is so good.
Yeah.
Right? And then at the end, I guess I've never understood the, like, we'll throw the sword back to the tart, the aquatic tart. And, like, another king will come when it's time. And I was like, so does that mean it's just, like, Arthur's like, peace, I'm out? And it's just, like, full-on fucking anarchy? Like, is there any reason to believe Percival wouldn't have been equally as good as a king? Is just the one, the chosen one, the ill-conceived, literally chosen one? Like, I don't know.
I think that because and again, I could be wrong because I don't live in England and I didn't grow up there. I don't know if maybe.
Well, I think you're with me, right? I think we all think that the monarchy is pretty fucking stupid, period.
Yeah, but beyond that, like just for what
British people love that shit.
For just what Arthur is in terms of lore.
Yeah.
Like Arthur is sort of like a British Jesus in a lot of ways, I think.
Oh, for sure. And like one of the most influential tales. Like
yeah.
A lot of people have used the inspiration and knowledge of Arthurian legend to write almost everything we like, but that's fine.
So like I think with that being said, the sword of Excalibur being thrown back to the Lady of the Lake is sort of like Jesus returning to heaven, kind of like that power, that seat of power.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Returning to heaven, maybe. I don't know. Honestly, I'm not smart, so like, there's.
Well, it's like it's like be cool, British people, because someday a guy with no qualifications is going to be taking a skinny dip.
Someday, some dope white's going to be in the skinnies, and he's going to find.
I think this was back when everyone in Britain just thought they were dope whites.
Yeah, this was
I don't think that was a problem they were grappling with yet very much. It's just kind of a bizarre medley film.
It's a weird movie. Yeah,
it's like watching a rock concert.
Great way to put it.
Yeah, it's like watching a rock concert. Yeah. Like I remember there's a Led Zeppelin DVD I used to have in college. I'd watch all the time, and they just do these cutaways to like these weird short films. And I was like, how is this worth interrupting my Led Zeppelin watching for this? That's kind of how I feel about this movie.
When I transferred to San Diego State, I had to take a music class, and I was fine with that. But I wasn't playing in it. I mean, like I can play guitar, but I don't want to play guitar for a class. So you could take a different class called History of Rock and Roll, and our teacher was this big like prog rock dude
class. Yeah.
So once we got through like the history of blues and all that other, and a lot of like history of blues, history of jazz, that kind of thing. Once we got to like the 70s, and we started talking about like Moog synthesizers and that stuff. I swear to God, we watched so much Emerson, Lake and Palmer footage, and I like, and this is why I bring this up. This is how I feel about, because you say prog rock concert to me.
I'm a prog rock guy,
and I love
as the Atlantic dubbed it, the whitest genre of music ever made.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm not saying that prog rock isn't dope. Like, we have a great time, you know.
They said that shit over country music, dude.
What's that?
That's wild.
Yeah, that's
the Atlantic said that prog rock is the whitest genre.
All right, well, that's the Atlantic. I also, but so we watched all these Emerson, Lake and Palmer videos, and this is the way I would encapsulate my experience watching Excalibur. You're watching Emerson, Lake and Palmer videos, and you're like, wow, that guy's very talented playing this huge keyboard, and he's just like plugging things in here and there, and you're like, oh wow, he's changing.
Like, a guy with a keyboard changing fucking aux chords just can never look cool.
Changing aux chords, I'm like, that's not as cool as I think anyone thinks it looks. He's like
the total effect is good, but like, you know, the changing chords is like knights jousting.
The overall is like, okay, that's an interesting thing to do with that instrument. But then like, when you think about the technicalities, you're like, that's literally a guy doing this.
The long part where he's just doing like a 3-minute soundscape between songs, you're like, that's not where cool. It's like, hey, maybe don't help Uther do what he did.
Yeah.
Like, we could have got lost that
I don't need a 15-minute Moog solo with you like unplugging and replugging the sterilizer or whatever it's called.
But overall, this movie, you just like let it like blow you away, and you're like,
but you're just like,
so much cool, to love in this movie.
Absolutely, awesome.
And it's weird because I think most of what is not to love in this movie is just like old timey Arthurian shit.
What's not to love is things that you shouldn't love, like sexual assault and all the other bad things that these guys are doing.
Jousting is fucking stupid. Almost every sport on a horse is fucking stupid. I
will remind anyone who's listening, who's saying, "What about Knight's Tale?" All the cool stuff in A Knight's Tale
you know what?
happens
Knight's Tale
not
is
in the jousting.
Stupid too. Knight's Tale is super stupid.
Okay, it's not, but all the
I'm here to help you.
The next time you're at a party and someone is not like, jousting related.
Someone is like, blow my pubes off with your amazing taste in movies. Don't say A Knight's Tale is cool. A Knight's Tale is a very fucking
if someone has that at the
film.
Ready as their like, this is the coolest movie ever, that's a problem to begin with. Neither here nor there.
I'm here to help those people.
They don't need
You're not going to be cool because it has fucking Queen songs in it. A Knight's Tale has an exceptionally good cast trapped in a series of bad choices. That's what that movie is.
Much like Excalibur.
Much like its grandpappy Excalibur. No, Excalibur kicks the shit out of a Knight's Tale.
Excalibur
Let's
totally
not
kicks
fuck
ass.
around. Simia Canis, thank you for your selection. Thank
Great
you for your
pick.
continued
Great
support.
Great start to this year.
I was stoked to watch Excalibur. I fucking love this movie. This movie's like right in my wheelhouse. I do love it. All right. So, guys, you know the deal. If you want to be one of our patrons and have a chance to get your stocking stuffed, go to patreon.com/FilmAlchemistPod and support the show. Some other things you can do to support the show. The YouTube is Film Alchemist. Subscribe there. The email is filmalchemistpod@gmail.com. We're on the socials. Leave those 5-star ratings and review. Go to misfitparade.net. Subscribe over there if you want to see short films that we're involved in helping make. Hopefully some longer films soon.
They're great. It's great stuff, guys.
Yeah, so we would appreciate that a lot. Also, just let your friends know what we're doing, man. That means the world to us. Maybe this season, if you enjoy spending time with us, give the gift of our Patreon to someone else. Anyway, we look very forward to this month. We love doing this for our patrons every year. They are the lifeblood of this show. They are the sword that gives us mandate to keep doing this show. So thank you all for that. Thank you especially to Simia Canis. For the Film Alchemist, I'm Josh Griffey.
I'm Alex Dandino.